Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sisters and Law. I'm Judge T.
And I'm Rosalind Charles.
And we welcome you back. Last week, my soror and co-host had to do a solo, and because I was away taking my daughter to college. But we're back, and I can tell you that in a week, it's like a year in the 45th world.
Yes, it is. Sarah, I did indeed miss you last week. I had a few technical snafus. And
we had our own little technical snafus.
We also had our own. But here we are on a holiday weekend, specifically Independence Day.
Independence Day. And there's something about this particular holiday that I don't think they explain to the 45th.
Well, let's talk about the significance of 1776 and ultimately when the United States won its independence
How did he go see Hamilton? Oh, okay,
Pence did.
And he got booed.
Yes, he did. All right, so the significance of the 4th of July and the time in which the United States, or at least the country that it was at that time, or the colonies that they were at that time, won its independence from Britain. A bunch of very intelligent individuals came together, our founding fathers, if you will. And,
the founding white men that came from England, there were no brothers.
True.
Okay.
But color aside, the founding fathers.
It's still our land now, and don't get it twisted. But we weren't on the first boat. We were on the underboat.
Well, actually, we were probably here. At least our people were significantly here years before any of those individuals.
Will prove that we were here long before slavery.
All right. Nonetheless, the founding fathers, they weren't necessarily all Christian. They studied various
Mostly
religions.
not Christian. They left England for that very reason.
The mere fact
King
that
James had basically taken over, and England was more of a Catholic country.
Yes, and then it has progressed. At least around that time, I think it was King George at the time.
Yes.
It was the king that they were fleeing from. But many of them were fleeing from, if you will, religious tyranny, and at least the mandate that they had to pray in a certain way. And many of not just the founding fathers, but their predecessors came to this land, the land of the Indian or the Native Americans, or the natives.
That we have almost wiped out as we're starting to do the 45th new band.
All right, but they came to this land so that they could pray the way they wanted to pray, and it didn't necessarily have to be Christian.
It didn't have to be to Jesus. It didn't have to be to Allah. It didn't have to be to Buddha. They could pray when they closed their eyes and
or pray to no one.
Or pray not at all. It says in our First Amendment, you have the right of religion and the right not to have religion. Just like the freedom of speech. All of that is in that First Amendment. Something that the 45th obviously has not been educated to.
Well, what is very interesting is that Thomas Jefferson himself, wrote papers about religious, in other words, tolerance. Tolerance for whatever, tolerance for the Christian, tolerance for the Jew, tolerance for, believe it or not, the atheist, and believe also the Muslim.
But Sora, we know that 45 doesn't read.
Okay. All right.
If he doesn't see it on TV, he doesn't get it.
And he looks at all of television, all of the
For a
media.
man who says that it's fake news, he spends his whole day and night
MSNBC,
watching fake news. See, because you can't attack like when he attacked Brzezinski this weekend. I mean, this man's got some issues with women and blood. What is up with it? See, in the Bible they call a woman's period issues. He has issues, blood issues. Remember with Megyn Kelly,
Yes, it was coming out of her eyes. It's coming out of her eyes.
What is up with? And one of the commentators, not commentators, he's a jokester.
Blood is the color of red, and red is the color of
Russia.
I don't know. Maybe I'm making ridiculous analogies. I think I am, but I just throw it in there.
If someone came to your door bleeding and you said no, that sounds more like your health care. Yeah, that health care where the CBO is 34 million people that's going to be knocked off the health insurance. Yeah. That sounds like you, 34.
So what were the issues of the week, at least? Let's
45.
forget about the WWE wrestling that he tweeted just recently.
The President of the United States.
I was trying to say, let's not forget
of
about it. I was going
America.
to try and let us get into the issues.
Oh.
But so we're talking about the ACA again, or at least their inability to repeal and replace Obamacare. And we're also talking about, was it an executive order that either is in existence, doesn't exist,
Well,
that has something to do with church and
yesterday,
state?
he had a veteran celebration in I guess, in recognition of Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited a congregation from Texas all the way to Washington. Because I'm sure he could not have found anywhere near Washington that would go along with that tomfoolery he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, he said to them, and we haven't been able to find the executive order in any of the Washington
It's not on the
website.
White House
But
website.
you know
Look at
what
that.
comes out of his lips, you know, it may you know
Maybe
your
he's
lying
thinking about
eyes or
it.
his lying
He's
lips.
dreaming about it.
But he
nightmaring
said that
about it. I'm not
he
sure.
is going to write an executive order, or that he signed an executive order that will allow churches to donate and to actually endorse presidential or political candidates, something that churches were not allowed to do if they wanted to maintain their
Well, speaking of the Constitution, I thought we had a separation of church and state.
But you see, this is where we keep
Is he
tearing our
rewriting the
drawers. The man
Constitution?
has not read.
He has
the
accused the
Constitution.
Supreme Court, or at least some of the Republicans have accused the Supreme Court of rewriting the Constitution. You know,
Well,
making it a living document. So in his
See,
mind, I
this is
guess
my-
living
this
document.
was my argument with Democrats at the beginning of this campaign. Was not even about Hillary. You could hate Hillary's guts if you wanted to. I have my issues with some of the things that she did and some of the things that she didn't do. Like I had my issues with some of the things Barack did and some of the things that he didn't do. There is no perfect president.
Correct.
But what I did believe is that she would act presidential. And there was proof in the election, not before he even got to Hillary, the way he treated the other Republicans, the amount of disrespect, the amount of venom, and the amount of non-presidential. He just could not, to say that you're going to do something in the future.
Let's define presidential. I mean, I don't necessarily think that there's a definition per se, but in general, we ask for a certain amount of decorum.
When you go to court, you expect a judge to act a certain way.
Of
you
course.
go to in the classroom, you expect a teacher to act a certain way. You go to a police officer, you hope that they will act a certain way. And I think in the United States, the creme de la creme of acting a certain way would be the President of the United States.
And that certain way is with
an
an aspect of decorum, with respect.
And our arrogance, American arrogance, we consider our president the most important person in the world.
And most of the world considers the United States president the most important individual
because
in the world. But he's acting more like Duarte as far as I'm concerned.
Well, we just finished a new. It's called the which president they name it after? It's a new ship. One of the largest ships in the world.
Okay, one of the Navy ships.
It's a Navy ship. And I looked down the row of all the other countries that have Navy ships this size.
Okay.
This is a $300 billion ship. It
Okay.
has taken almost 15 years.
You know how to spend a lot of money on artillery.
So we just finished it. That's the one that he made the announcement on when he had on the jacket and the hat. You know.
When was this?
A couple of weeks ago. He actually when they unveiled the ship.
Did he make a deal on that one too?
Well, this
It was in the works, I guess. Imagine during the Obama administration, or maybe even before.
I think this was as far back, maybe even to the Clinton administration.
Really? It took that long to build it?
This is the most expensive ship in the world.
All righty.
The thing about it is we have 10.
Okay.
We have 10.
Okay.
Every other country has one.
All right.
So when we speak of us being the most powerful, it says if you own the water and you own the sky, you own the land.
Yes.
We have more fighter jets. We have more ships, missile capability than any other country in the world. Now, as far as atomic bombs and all that things are concerned, we do know that there are other countries that do have atomic bombs that,
Right.
that if we all went, ballistic at the same time, would cause carnage across the world.
I don't think the world would exist.
No,
All
it,
right.
it would, and
So-
I don't think we're going to.
So within American arrogance,
With
you're
the,
saying-
with the arrogance that we have of a president that believes the only way he can get his way is to threaten people. See, we better be glad that he's only threatening news anchors like Brzezinski and Joe
as opposed
Joe
to,
Scarborough,
as opposed to countries.
as
he
opposed
had-
to countries.
Well, he is kind of rabble rousing with that guy in North Korea. But go ahead.
But that kid is, I mean, come on, he is not going.
You know,
he ain't gonna mess
interesting
with
enough,
this.
speaking of, is it Kim
Young Yoon. Look, it's no disparagement. I just don't have my
South
Korean
Koreans
accent.
are more concerned about Trump than they are about Kim Jong-un.
Exactly. And he just met.
Or
with
maybe I'll take it this far. Let's equate the two, at least in terms of some of their antics.
You know what? I would think that the president of the United States of America would be so far above the fray of tomfoolery that there would be no comparison. If we want to consider ourselves the freest, the most sophisticated, the most educated country in the world, I think when we elected the 45th, we dumbed down so far, we are in a rabbit hole.
All of that is really coming to question, not even with the 45th presidency, but I don't necessarily know that we are the freest or the most educated. Because our educational system
one of the things that we
has a lot to be
know
lacking.
is that more countries than not have universal health care, and we don't.
Right.
We're the only civilized country in the world that does not have health care for all of its citizens.
You don't even have to say civilized. The only one of industrial
The
nation.
Senate's new bill that they have just presented, the CBO score, the old one that the Congress gave was 24 million people off of their health insurance.
Yeah.
The one that the Senate has produced is 34 billion people off of their health care.
Most recently, the 45th had a meeting with the heads of the Republican Party, as well as, I guess, the
Is
heads
that when
of
they
the
were
House
all
of-
kissing the ring?
I'm not sure that was. It might have been one of the meetings, but
Priebus lost his mind and said that we are blessed. Like, dude, he ain't the king and he ain't God.
But they had a meeting with the 45th and some of his Republican compadres had a meeting regarding the health care, if you will. And at least in the media, they're saying the Donald doesn't like either bill.
Well, the Donald at first said that it was mean. But then when he realized that he wasn't going to get a health care bill at all, he said, let's just repeal it and we'll replace it later. This man.
What does that mean? That means
no
nobody
health insurance.
knows.
No health insurance.
And
other than state workers that means that you have to shop directly with a health care provider. There's no system within the government for you to get any insurance.
Whatever they do with I think repealing it outright with no replacement is ridiculous. What I'd like to see happen is that they repair or they add to the existing legislation. I would like to see them keep, obviously, the pre-existing conditions. I'd like to see them keep
women's health care.
I'd like to see
our
them,
mammograms, our
right.
pap smears.
Yes.
How come men can get Viagra but we can't get birth control?
They can get Viagra.
on their
health
insurance, but not birth control.
Because what does that say? They want babies.
No.
Babies.
But if a woman has an abortion, if you go by Pence, it's a criminal offense. But what happens to the man? Because my issue: if a man gets a woman pregnant, if you're going to charge a woman with a criminal offense, then the man should be charged with aggravated assault.
Let's say the woman does not have an abortion. What support do we have for that child that's coming into the world? So
another thing that has been cut off is mental health care.
That's in these bills.
All of these bills.
But let's talk about what we'd like to keep, because in addition to that, I'd like to see them keep the aspect of the ACA that allowed for children to be insured up until they were 26.
Yes.
Now,
that would automatically be gone because basically if he wipes out what we call the Affordable Care Act, they can call it Obamacare, and President Obama probably doesn't give a two hoots what you call it. And he really doesn't care if whatever you do to fix it, because the reality of it is that he wanted the assistance from the Republicans when they first wrote the Affordable Care Act. They just said that they were not going to assist him in anything he did. So the fact that they weren't a part of it is of their own ilk and not because he didn't want them to.
For sure.
So
well, let's see, what would we like to add to the bill itself? I think I'd like to see maybe you'd be able to go across state lines and in other words, increase the competition. If you're going to maintain it in a free market, now granted, I think we should have universal health care and it should be government supported, but if we're going to maintain this free market system, that this capitalism.
That's one of the things the Republicans want, but
yeah, but I don't think that made the last bill. That the Senate came up. It didn't make the Senate bill.
Because the Senate bill does not want. They don't want any of the Medicaid, Medicare, and they don't want the pre-existing. They're like adamant about those two issues.
They're talking about cutting Medicaid and Medicare, and I mean technically what they're trying to do.
What they're saying is those are subsidies that we are paying for people who can work. Now, if you're a veteran and you've come home injured, yeah, you may be 24, 25.
I think on a real deal, what they're really talking about is individuals who might be self-employed. They're making substantial monies, that for some reason they're able to fall under Medicaid and Medicare based on certain issues. But nonetheless, it's a cut, and they want to cut individuals who of a certain economic status, and I'm not necessarily suggesting $90,000 is a whole lot of economic status.
When you
consider the 1% that makes whatever they make.
But at the end of the day, $90,000 among one family with two kids is no money.
Exactly, it's nothing. It's nothing. Particularly, at least in our neck of the woods.
As we know, Christie has shut down our government right now. We're on Skid Row in New Jersey. So all of you who have come to New Jersey for vacation,
they're at loggerheads. Our governor and the Democrats.
Yeah, but it's a weekend.
Held
so
legislature.
if you came here on Friday to have your 4th of July weekend,
the Jersey Shore
even if they come back,
marvelous. If you
but they're closed.
Many of them are closed. The state parks
are
closed. Any of the beaches that are run by the state, they're done. At least until the New Jersey government can open up again.
This has, and to be honest, Giordano, he's screwing you, lady.
Now Giordano happens to be running.
She's running
for governor.
But she
is the
is
current
his lieutenant governor. And at the very best, you would hope that he wouldn't hurt her. Well, he's darn sure not helping her. So if I don't know, you caught yourself up in a rabbit hole because he's so busy trying to be New Jersey's Trump. Because you best believe, because Trump left as soon as he left the function yesterday.
You're talking about Christie.
No.
Christie.
When Trump left the event yesterday, he came back to his home in Bedminster. He has 2 homes in New Jersey. So you guys think he's bad in New York. We got to deal with him here in New Jersey. But see, here in New Jersey, we have more farmland. People think that Melania left because she wanted to come to D.C. When folks in New York was sick and tired of Melania and holding up the traffic every time she came out to take Barron to school.
I was in the city this weekend. Traffic's not too bad. So
it's a wonderful thing having Melania out of New York.
That's why.
And let me just hit her for a minute. Miss Melania.
You're hitting the family now? What's going on?
Look, Sora, I had promised that we would stay away from family, children, and wives.
Why are you breaking your
unless
promise?
They come out the side of their neck. She came out the side of her neck this week. On the Brzezinski matter on MSNBC,
yes.
where the 45th indicated that she and Joe Scarborough came 3 days around New Year's and they wanted to stay, and he said she was bleeding from a facelift. Now, first of all, that doesn't even make any damn sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And second of all, what is up with you and blood? You and your blood things. You're ignorant.
Back to the issue.
But so Melania's point. Now, this is the woman
This
is the woman whose her mantra is cyberbullying. Your husband is the #1 cyberbully.
Oh my goodness.
So
but I thought it had to deal with children in cyberbullying.
He's a kid.
I don't know how I defend that.
So this man said, Melania said well, if you hit my husband, he will hit you 10 times harder.
When Natasha is defending Boris.
Well,
shouldn't a wife defend her husband?
You know what?
She could just say sorry.
Some of the what I respected her for was when she heard the grabbing the vagina issue. She said that that they were egging him on. Girl, you know who you married to.
You respected him?
You know who you married to. Okay? You know your husband was with Marlon Maples while he was married
to. Do you think Natasha contemplated?
Ivana?
Do you think that Natasha contemplated the presidency when she married?
I'm sure that she didn't, but she knows who she's married to, and for her to come out of the side of her neck and act like that he's not who he is, you know who he is. That's why it took you so long to get to DC. That's why when he tried to hold your hand, you slapped his hand away. Look, trust and believe.
Maybe they were just having a little.
You know what? You don't fight in front of the Pope. You don't fight in front of all of the cameras.
I think they were in the Middle East at that time.
Honey, they were getting off of a plane where everybody in the world was watching. True. And he went to take that hand, and she swatted him away like a dragonfly.
But now she's supporting him. So what are you saying?
Well, she's got to be in the White House with him now. See, she was cool when she was when she was Rapunzel up in the Tower of Trump. See, but now that she's no longer in the tower, she actually act like she wants to be the first lady. She has not done. Let me tell you something. We knew the agenda of every first lady from the time they got into office. From the, I mean, my most, I guess, conscientious memory goes back to Reagan, and boy, did they have a problem with Mrs. Reagan, because she came and changed up everything, changed up the China. They said she was Hollywood in the White House.
And her thing, the way I remember her, was don't ask. No, it was just don't do it, or just say no. That was Nancy Reagan.
But see, every first lady has their own.
Okay. So that's Nancy Reagan. Then we move forward to George the First. Now that first lady, what was her name? What was her name?
Barbara.
Barbara. What was her thing?
You know what? I don't really recall, but let me tell you, I don't necessarily recall what all of their. I mean, we know that.
So let's move.
We know Michelle's with health and obesity with children.
So let's move forward.
But what we do know that they came to the White House with their husbands.
Yes, they did.
And they were there in support of their husbands every single day from the time.
Then we move forward, and there was Hillary
But
Clinton.
even Hillary, notwithstanding all, I mean, and this is the thing that I had a problem with.
But Hillary's thing was healthcare. Hillary's thing was healthcare, and then she went back into the
And
work
so I tell everybody that we need to give, as much as President Obama gets a lot of dap for having actually brought it through, the first person that tried it in 60-something years was Hillary Clinton when she was the first lady.
And then we had George II and his wife. She was a librarian. I'm not really recalling her presence in the White House.
But you know what?
Right.
She did not say anything inflammatory.
True.
She was always very, very present and wifely. For, I don't want to sound sexist, but I think she stood by her man. Let me just put it that way. Okay. Just like, Madam Michelle, just like, Madam Barbara.
Michelle Obama, who was probably the most educated of the first ladies, with the exception of Hillary Clinton. With the exception of Hillary.
And not that she was more educated than Hillary, but she was just as educated, just as President Obama was just as educated.
So, and Michelle Obama's thing was children and obesity and just
Melania said hers was going to be cyberbullying.
Okay,
and
now
we
we're back to
have this man on his Twitter account. I mean, this thing that he did with the WWF, where he was actually wrestling. I don't know if he originally did it, but he actually.
You think he got the tape from Linda McMahon?
Well, whoever made it. No, they always have the tape. The tape is on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
What somebody did was take the tape and put the CNN logo over the head of the person, which was.
So he's against the press again.
Again.
All right. So
but
he's
more
bullying
importantly,
the press.
he's bullying the press. But then, if you didn't retweet it and we saw it on someone else's feed, then we could say, that's somebody else that was supporting him. But he retweeted it on the official presidential White House account.
Is that presidential? Does that
That's
speak
a kid.
of a certain
That's
decorum,
an
that one would think
immature
that
child.
the leader of the free world.
And that's what we go back to our ninth show where we
The
were
kind
telling you that this man is mentally deranged. He is a narcissistic megalomaniac.
We talked about a lot of those things on our tape show, and who would think? And those shows were taped some 6 months ago.
But they're not about calling him a name
But who would
for the
think that
name
it
clause.
remains so relevant today?
But you would think that he would have changed. Remember, he said he can be presidential if he wants to. So we have to
But
assume
he
he chooses
doesn't want
not
to.
to.
Exactly.
He chooses not to. And so as we're going into the Russia thing and the whole Peter Smith with his investigation and giving
Now, who's
out.
Peter Smith?
Peter Smith, he just died recently, but before he died, he gave up a lot of info. He was the man who really was the I could say the orchestrator of taking down Bill Clinton. He's the one that put out the information about the women that he's allegedly had sexual allegations against when he was governor.
All right, so he was the architect of
yes.
the
the
destruction.
Clinton takedown.
Okay.
And after Clinton was not actually impeached out of office, he was impeached, but he was not taken out of office. He stayed silent.
Okay.
He stayed silent up until about 15 months ago when Hillary, well, probably a little more than 15 months ago, when Hillary decided that she was going to run. And for whatever reason,
he
had
wanted
nothing-
to take down Hillary.
Yes.
As opposed, not just Bill,
well,
but now.
it's the Clintons.
All right.
Okay. And
Still, why do they- people
he
hate the
knows
Clintons? I don't know.
that Vladimir Putin also has a hatred for some of the things that Clinton did when he
Alright.
was in presidency, and he too wanted to take down
Okay.
the Clintons. So what he did is that he went and used his Russian connections when he found out that the tapes, the Hillary, I guess
Tapes or
emails
from the DNC?
may have been
Or
in
from
her personal emails.
her personal emails
When he
at
found
the
out
DNC,
that-
or when she was Secretary of State. Do we
When
know?
she was, I think both.
Okay.
Both. But well, see, because we don't know which ones. Remember when the 45th was saying, Russia, if you have the deleted emails, could you give them the WikiLeaks. We love WikiLeaks.
Are you suggesting that the 45th was in some kind of cahoots with
Well,
this
he's-
Peter individual that
Smith
you're talking about?
indicated that before he died, that
Yeah.
he spoke directly with Conway, with Steve Bannon, Kellyanne, Steve Bannon. There was another White House official that his name, it's not in my head right now, but and of course with Mike Flynn.
All right.
So we know that Mike Flynn was unmasked, and we know his conversations. Now, we know that some of the military and some of the investigative teams are going to be going in front of the House of Representatives for some secret meetings after the holiday season. And where I'm
So
pretty
the
sure they're going to
bodies
be
from both the House and the Senate that are investigating Russia?
yes,
And the potential collusion?
and the collusion,
All right.
where they will have to give up the names of the Americans that were unmasked and what the contents of that information was.
All right.
And I will, this may be the kingpin that, see, Mueller is doing, his investigation is separate and apart.
Yes. But
And
he
so,
still is controlled by the White House. If
well,
the 45th wanted to fire him, he could.
I think that I think they've made
He's
it
not-
very clear. I mean, that's why Pence, that's why Jared, that's why everybody in the White House has their own private attorney right now, even the 45th. And but somebody didn't tell the
They have
Keebler
their-
Elf that he's not the 45th's president.
So they have their
And the
private
Keebler Elf
attorneys
is,
to
the
protect
Attorney General.
themselves from
Sessions.
potential, from saying the wrong thing, for guidance, someone to. This is all quite
Let me tell
amazing.
you, we are in a very confusing time as Americans.
Do you think we just know too much? Do you think things like this was going on in various other administrations? It's just that it's all full and frontal within us at this
that they
particular time
were.
with
I
the
just
Trump
think
administration.
that we.
But you know what? Things got done under other administrations. within the first, I guess, 2 years of the Obama administration, they got the ACA through.
Mhm.
Whether they had the complete cooperation of the other party, that's something else. But under each presidency, at least in the recent past, that first 100 days, that first 6 months, the wheels of government were running, and significant legislation was being passed. In this administration, I don't see that anything is getting done.
I don't either, sir. I really don't.
Is it the Russia investigation? What is distracting this president from
We're
his
gonna
obligations to
find
serve
out.
the American public?
It may be much to our chagrin, no matter how much I have a personal dislike, and my dislike has really nothing to do with anything he's doing right now. My personal dislike for Donald J. Trump is the disrespect that he gave to President Obama, and that was never going to make him right
I
in my eyes.
take substantial issue with the fact that he tried to discredit Obama in that birther movement.
The legitimacy of him as a man.
That really just kind of cut to the core of who he was.
But
meaning who the
if he
45th
had come
was, 'cause
into office and actually started to do some things that were to the benefit of the country, as the president, I would have given him respect. I didn't have to like him.
True.
I could respect him.
True.
But he neither gets a like or respect because he chooses not to be respectful to women. He chooses not to be respectful to, he's only respectful to law enforcement and the military when it's to his advantage.
And it's an advantage because when he started out, he started talking about all of the investigative agencies and their dealings.
As far as he said
insulted
everything.
the CIA and the FBI, the CIA, the FBI, and every other.
The very people that, and now
he had the intelligence community
and we're not even
against
going to
him.
get into. He has a new commission now that is put together to determine whether the 3 million voters who supposedly
that
voted
is
for
a
him.
whole show in and of itself.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that next
That
week.
talks about all of our privacy issues because
They want your name, your address, your phone number, your social security number, your voting record, and all of your voting history
wasn't there
in
like a
one
curtain?
database.
When you go behind the voter booth, you close the curtain, you think that you have a certain amount of privacy.
Well, not
to
with
vote the way
the
you want to
45th.
vote. That's when you find out. So you're going to find out what Democrats voted for Republicans, what Republicans voted for Democrats, what independents lean Republican, what independents lean Democrat. I think we need a third party.
And we also are going to
We're not going to find this out. Most of the states are opposing this, both red
Even
and blue
blue.
states.
And,
All right.
and he's allowing churches now to give unfiltered money to politics. This is like, ladies and gentlemen, there's
You
so
know
much
what?
to talk about.
Yes.
And we have,
Happy 4th of July.
yes, don't be, New Jersey, remember, fireworks are illegal, all right? All of my
the state of
daughter's
New
friends
Jersey.
in Florida, every other place I passed this weekend was selling fireworks. I'm admonishing you guys right now, stay away from the fireworks,
Be
let
careful.
the professionals
Have a
do it.
safe 4th of July celebration.
Happy 4th of July. Make sure that next week you hit us up on live on our YouTube channel. The tape will be on Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, and we still have our page, www.systemsonlaw.com. We continue to want to have a conversation, and we want your questions. What do you want to talk about? What's the conversation that is important to you? So thank you for joining Judge T
And Rosalind Charles.
with Sisters and Law. We'll see you next week.
Take care.